Have you ever been watching a movie or show and wondered, is acting even allowed in Islam? It's a really interesting question, right? Because it touches on everything from big Hollywood blockbusters to cartoons. So today, we're going to break down the guidelines that shape the performing arts within the faith, and I think some of the answers are definitely going to surprise you.
So, let's just get right to it. The big question. Is acting permitted in Islam? Well, the thing is, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's actually a whole landscape of principles and conditions that we're about to explore together.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the basic conditions for when performance is actually allowed. Then we'll dive into what's strictly off limits, talking about specific roles and content. After that, we'll get into the details of voice work, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with the single most important guiding principle.
Right, let's start with the absolute fundamentals. For any kind of performance to be okay, it has to meet a very specific set of conditions. See, it's not so much about the act of performing itself, but it's really about the purpose behind it and the whole context surrounding it.
So, here's the number one rule, the absolute starting point. The whole thing has to serve a beneficial purpose. We're talking about things like education, or calling people towards good Islamic values. We're just getting positive moral messages across. If the goal isn't something constructive, well, then it's a non-starter right from the get-go.
And beyond just having a good purpose, the content itself has some really strict guardrails. I mean, the performance has to be completely free of anything indecent, it has to avoid the free mixing of genders, it can't have music, and it needs to steer clear of any immoral speech or actions that go against Islamic principles.
Okay, so we've got the general content rules down. Now, let's get even more specific. Because it's not just about what happens in a scene, it's also about who an actor is allowed to play.
And this is where the guidelines get super specific. Certain roles are just completely off limits. For instance, playing the role of prophets or their amazing companions, the Sahaba, is forbidden. And that's out of a deep sense of reverence. An actor also can't portray devils or play a disbeliever in a way that kind of glorifies their disbelief. And get this, even imitating animals or having men imitate women, or vice versa, is prohibited. Because the idea is to maintain your own natural disposition.
Now, you're going to hear the word haram used a lot. Just so we're all on the same page, it simply means something that is strictly forbidden in Islam. It's an absolute no-go.
And this is a really important point. These rules don't just apply to the performers. The responsibility actually extends to us, the audience. Watching a movie can become haram if it shows people committing real sins as part of their role, or if the whole point of the story is to normalize behavior that goes against Islamic teachings.
All right, let's zoom in on a really specific and fascinating area, the world of voice acting. The guidelines here are just as detailed, especially when we talk about the female voice.
First, we've got to understand this concept of aura. Now, it usually refers to parts of the body that have to be covered, but people often ask if a woman's voice fits into that category. And the answer from the source material is crystal clear: no. A woman's normal, everyday speaking voice is not, in and of itself, considered aura.
This is actually a perfect illustration of how something permissible can become impermissible. So step 1, a woman's normal speech, totally fine, permitted. But step 2, if the voice is intentionally softened or made to sound beautiful when speaking to men she's not related to, well, that becomes impermissible. And then step 3, if it's used in a way that could cause temptation, it's definitely impermissible. So you see, it all comes down to the manner and the intent behind it.
And these exact same principles apply to all kinds of voice acting, whether it's for radio, animation, you name it. It's allowed as long as you can check 3 boxes. The content has to be halal, the intention behind it has to be good, and Islamic etiquette has to be maintained through the whole process.
Okay, so we've looked at purpose, content, specific roles, even the nuances of a person's voice. So now, let's bring it all home and look at the one single overarching principle that governs every single thing we've discussed.
After going through all those details, it really boils down to just 4 crucial factors that are used to judge whether a performance is okay or not.
And here they are. First, the content. Is it good for people? Is it free from forbidden things? Second, the method. How is it being made and shown? Third, the intention. What's the real goal of the creators and the actors? And finally, the consequences. What kind of effect is this actually going to have on the audience?
And this quote from Islam QA just says it all, doesn't it? Any form of acting or media work is judged by its content, method, intention, and consequences. It confirms that these four things are the complete framework for looking at any kind of media.
So, if we had to boil this entire explainer down into just one sentence, this would be it. If a performance upholds Islamic values and carefully stays away from everything that's forbidden, it may be allowed. If it doesn't, then it's not. It's a really clear and consistent standard.
And that just leaves us with one final thought to ponder. We've seen how absolutely critical intention is in figuring out if a performance is permissible. So the question for us to really reflect on is this. Moving beyond the stage or the screen, how does that same powerful principle of intention define the value and the acceptability of everything we do in our daily lives? Thanks so much for joining me.